Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. How's it
Hey,
going,
everybody.
Dan?
Good.
What's been going on in your world? You been deer hunting any?
Yeah, we just wrapped up muzzleloader season. That was fun.
Did you guys saw you guys you put a slew of gun hunting videos up.
Yeah.
Looks like you had a pretty good day of driving there.
Yeah.
I can't. Me and you were talking, I don't know, the other day about how well those videos do. People just love those gun hunting, deer driving videos.
They do. Yeah.
I mean, they get more views than our archery stuff. Honestly,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on average, gun videos do much better.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess if you didn't know any better, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. I wouldn't have either.
I think it's because it's like kind of unique to the Hunt and Beast channel. There's not very many.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is making videos like that. I mean, the drives and stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
I think everybody's afraid of backlash and negative comments and stuff. Which, if you've looked long, there's a lot of negative comments.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me how many people are I don't know how to say it, like they're so great they've never killed a small buck in their life. All they shoot is monsters, and they think that somebody that shoots their first buck on one of our drives should only hold out for a monster. I hate deer shamers.
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
Now, I held out. I didn't shoot any small ones, but I did finish a couple off for the other guys.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of deer shamers, and we got a lot of people that are racist against black guns.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what's funny is I get these comments like I would never use a 223. It's too small of a caliber. You can't knock them down with that. Well, if you've never used one, how do you know that?
Yeah.
With the right bullets is a pretty effective gun. Now, it's only effective for a certain range, but I know that. I practice with it. I use it. It's great for a great tool for specific use with those drives. And on average, the deer go down a lot quicker with the AR than they do with the 30-06 or the shotgun from all the drives.
That round's pretty fast too.
Right. So I can get shots off quick, which is important to me because if they run out into the open woods and they get to other hunters, I generally you lose the deer. You get in an argument over it, and whoever gets to it first is how the law works in Wisconsin. All they have to do is take a shot at it and say they hit it. Whether they did or not, there's no argument. The first one to the deer, if they say they shot at it, they get it. And I lost a big 6-pointer that way one time.
Yeah.
And by big, I mean it scored in the 130s as a 6.
Yeah.
Which is world class for a 6-pointer. And you put a couple rounds through the chest with that AR with good expanding bullets, they go down really quick.
Yeah.
And the thing is being able to get multiple hits on them quick.
Yeah.
I didn't lose the one I shot at.
They are,
using those.
They are entertaining videos though. Like there's a lot more action in them, and things are moving and going around, and I think that's maybe why it's so entertaining. And that's something like YouTube probably like, because people probably can, sometimes archery hunting can get boring, for lack of a better word, whereas that, and you probably lose retention time, which retention time is a YouTube term, but people stop watching your videos because they're boring. Which of those they probably just keep watching them. Therefore, YouTube probably keeps recommending them. I never really thought about it, but anyways. So we got a bunch of people on already.
We really got to get to hire somebody that's a dedicated cameraman for that, because we could really get some good footage with, especially if we had 2 cameramen. One walked along with the drivers,
right?
One stayed with whoever's in the best kill position on the stands. We could really get some good footage.
Oh,
it's hard to sell film on a gun drive.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, we got a bunch of people on. So if you guys are new to this format, me and Dan do this every week. We're going to start doing it maybe twice a week sometimes. And just leave your questions in the comments if you have any. We'll try to get to them at the end of the show.
So we'll have like Thursday Night Live and Random Wednesday or
Sunday night.
That's a good name for it. Random whatever day it is.
Maybe the second show will be a little shorter or something. Just do a quick topic and hop off. But like tonight, we're going to do. We put some questions up on the Hunting Beast Facebook page about late season questions, and I have all those, and we're going to do half of those tonight, and then the other half probably Sunday night. And then we're going to leave time for questions like we always do at the end. So just leave them in the comments, and I'll also throw the link to get on the show live with us. If you want to ask your questions live, you can just click on the link and be looking for that in the comments section whenever I kind of announce that on the show. I think that's it. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. That all helps with YouTube too. Anyway, got another news clip this week. We're trying to have a news clip every week, and it sounds like we need to go to Thief River Falls, Minnesota, and start deer hunting up there.
I got a lead on a big non-typical up there.
Did you? The article me and Dan are referring to is in the description of this video, and I think it was posted all over Facebook, and I think I found it on the Hunting Beast forum. I think you posted it, Dan, but there was a giant non-typical stuck in the river up there in Minnesota, and a rescue crew, firefighters got it out. You ought to read the article and see the buck, because it's a big buck. Apparently it was kind of a
couple Beast members were there on the scene filming it. I tried to get one of them to let me use a clip and have them call in and talk about it, but I didn't get a hold of him in time. I couldn't get an answer before the show.
Yeah. Apparently the buck was kind of a known buck in the area. I guess a lot of people had trail cam pictures of it and whatnot, the article said. So
that's the thing nowadays. Any buck that size, somebody knows about it. There's pictures somewhere, there's videos somewhere. That's kind of cool, because nowadays it's a lot harder for people to poach animals like that because of all the trail cameras out there everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, there's information on every deer. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about.
There's actually people already posting on under that where I put the article in my profile on Facebook.
Yeah,
pictures of it saying, "No, it's still alive. We've seen it." So that's how far reaching this stuff is.
Oh man, it's crazy. I think about that sometimes. Like, I wonder what would a deer would think if it knew how much we knew about them. Like, how much time and effort we put into like learning them, and even specific deer. It'd be pretty creepy if I were them, But yeah, it was a big deer. You think it'll survive? It looked like it was a pretty rough shape in the
I wouldn't have thought so looking at it. But people are getting pictures of it walking around now, so
yeah,
it looks like it's fine. It looks like it's going to be okay.
I didn't catch whenever it was done or whenever it was stuck. What day was it?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I just saw it.
Oh, was it?
I have no idea. Maybe it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I assumed it was maybe a couple days ago or.
I know several people who have found deer stuck in fences.
Yeah.
And released them. Because what happens is when they go to jump them, if they jump them real tight, and their front feet go over and actually go over the top strand, and under the second strand they twist, and then if they panic and get over it, they get wound.
Yeah,
and their legs get stuck, and it's a common thing with barbed wire fences.
yep.
And I know people have found deer like that and then released them, and actually in the majority of cases after releasing them, they're found dead later. The stress kills them. And I know that when they used to trap deer in a place called River Hills in Wisconsin here, which is it was a really rich neighborhood where they wouldn't allow anybody to hunt or anything, and the houses were like on like quarter-mile lots, because these guys are billionaires, and there's all these giant bucks in there, and they would go in there and they'd trap these deer and move them out to the country and release them. And it was funny because they did a study on it. They put some collars on them and stuff, and a lot of them were dying in transport, and a lot of them were dying right after transport, just from being trapped and being transported because of the stress, because of how hard it is on their body. I don't know if it's trying to get out of the trap or if it's the worrying or what, but they're actually a pretty delicate animal in that regard.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I've heard of, like, I know lots of mammals are that way where you can actually like give them a heart attack if you put them in certain scenarios.
Now, did you ever hear of that deer we got on the drive that had a heart attack?
Yeah, I've heard that story before. You ought to tell it though, in case people haven't.
Okay, so we were doing the gun deer drives, and there's a section of cattails that we do that takes a whole day. And we drive a section that's big, and then it gets narrower. We drive, and then we drive another narrower section until it gets down to nothing. And the idea is you start at the big end, and some get through you, and they go into the next section, and then some get through there, and they go into the next section. And the last section is pretty hard for them to get out of. So we drive these 3 sections in a row, and we had a doe get through in the first section, get through in the second section, and there's snow on the ground, so we were watching where it was going. And we kept following that thing, and it got through the drivers on the last drive, which they hardly ever do, but it got past a guy on a ladder in a little narrow spot. He was looking the wrong way or something and went right past him. I followed the tracks past him. I'm like, were you looking? Because it was like 10 yards from him. He's like, I didn't see nothing go through. The snow was fresh. I'm like, it came through right here. So I had the guys regroup. I'm like, go in this little patch, and it's only like 2 acres. And actually, I think I sent, it was Jeff Trudell in there. And I went up on this hill, and we all surrounded this little patch. And way up on this hill, I'm watching Jeff go through this, and I'm like, he's following the tracks. And then he gets to a point where he's like right up against this opening, and he's still on the tracks. And he goes, I can't go any further. I'm falling through. I'm like, you just got a little bit to go. And while I'm saying that, I see this deer poke out, look around in this little opening. And I put the gun up, and I take a shot at it. And it turns around, runs back in by him. And he comes out because he's fallen through up to his armpit, so he's scared. So he comes. I think that was like one of the first years we put him into cattails. And I'm like, get back in there. He's like, I can't go in there. I can't go in there. I'll drown. So I'm like, okay, I'm going in. I got to go see if I had blood anyways, right?
Yeah.
So I go out there, and I get on this blood trail, and then Jason comes from the other way, and we just kind of narrow it down and get closer and closer. And I see the thing in a bed, so I sneak up with the gun, and I get right up to it, and it never jumps, and I poke it, and it's obviously dead. I kick it, it's dead. So we look around, there wasn't a bullet hole in it. So we chased that thing all day on these drives. I think it dropped of a heart attack. Even when we cleaned it and everything, there wasn't a bullet hole in that thing anywhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I missed it when I shot at it, and that was the only shot that was taken at it, and I clean missed. If I hit it with that 30-06 with the 180,
you'd have found a hole. Yeah.
Especially, you skin it or whatever, you'd find a hole. There wasn't a hole in that thing anywhere. I think it died of a heart attack.
No meat was lost in the killing of that deer.
No. We still every year when we do drives, that subject will come up. Remember that time you scared that one to death?
Oh, that's funny. Anyway, here's a question before we get started into the hunting stuff. This is a topic that gets brought up all the time, and I want to know your opinion on it. What are your thoughts on the Mitch Impala buck? Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of factors in there that lead me to believe that that's fake.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't say I'm led to believe that. I'd say I know it's fake.
Yeah.
Now, number one, the guy was an attention whore, really trying to get into the hunting industry. He was trying to get sponsors. He was trying to grow. He was trying to do things. And he was dirt poor and trying to make money. Now, if you got a multi-million-dollar deer, you're not going to collect on it. You're just going to hide the rack.
Yeah.
He had people willing to pay him $1 million just to show it to him and let him X-ray it. Wouldn't do it. There's just too many factors. And another factor is the guy had a lot of really shady dealings with the law. Not to say that makes you a poacher, but he was busted for theft of mail, U.S. mail. He was busted for filming up women's skirts in shopping malls. And it just doesn't seem like the kind of person that's really honest to me.
Yeah.
You know, I really probably shouldn't even say those things, but it's true and it's already out there publicly.
Yeah.
And the main factor is that if he shot that buck and it was for real, he shot it, he would have no problem with somebody X-raying it, and he wouldn't hide it. He'd want to prove it. I mean, if you had shot a world record buck, even if you didn't want to score it, if people were accusing you of poaching, the whole world was accusing you of it, and they said, all you have to do is X-ray it, and then they said, I'll give you $1 million to X-ray it because I know, you didn't shoot it legally, and I know that those antlers are bolted on there. You'd be like, okay, I'll X-ray it, I'll prove you wrong, and then I'll take my rack and I'll be out of here. Who wouldn't?
Right.
Especially if it's like officials saying that, right?
Yeah.
And then he really wanted that thing to be the world record. He promoted it as the world record, but doesn't want it scored as the world record. He did want it scored, and he did have it scored. But as soon as they wanted to X-ray it, nope. Couldn't X-ray it. And in today's world, and even when he shot that, people were fabbing up antlers like crazy. Now you can see it on an X-ray, but it's really hard to tell otherwise. I mean, it's just like when you break an antler, how a taxidermist can fix it.
Yeah.
They can do that to racks. They can make them bigger if they want. There's people that fabricate world record bucks all the time. I mean, the difference is they don't go try to put it in a record book. But I believe he was just out for attention. I think he probably went a little too far.
Got himself in a big hole.
Yeah, I think maybe he was just trying to like thumb his nose at the industry. Just maybe like upset with certain people or something, and he was just trying to thumb his nose at people. I don't know, but I don't think there's any way in the world that is real.
It also came from and maybe I'm wrong here.
It came from a place where they don't shoot world record bucks.
Right. It's like
and you're talking about
Northwestern Wisconsin or Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking
not
about
far from where we were hunting.
When he moved to Michigan, he joined a big buck club where you're only, you had to wait for certain size animals to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
He got caught dragging out a little 4-pointer at night, sneaking it out of there, and got kicked out of the club. So, I mean, it was just some weird stuff with that dude. Now, I know he's a strange guy, and that's not to say did get shot on accident or something, and he was just trying to do the right thing and claim the deer and just not affect club members or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But nothing adds up with that buck. Nothing at all. I mean, I'm not into scores. I could care less about having the world record or anything else. Any mature buck is cool to me. Literally.
Yeah.
I'm still cashing in and taking the millions if I shoot a world record buck.
Oh yeah.
And I don't need
probably wouldn't see me anymore. Right.
Any person who's a human with common sense would. And if he had that buck and he was hiding the rack like he claims or whatever, and in a safe somewhere, that's what his son claims. And he made up some story. It got burned up at one point or something. But if he really had that rack, at some point over this long period of time, he would have said, screw living in this shack with nothing. I'm cashing in. you know.
Yeah.
And he really quickly, when threatened to be sued, either show the rack by the world record holder who was making money off of his world record by traveling around with it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, shows didn't want him and stuff like that because, well, now it might not be the world record. You know, we're not going to pay you that to bring the old world record. You know,
Right.
So, the guy from Canada, who Milo Hansen, he threatened to sue him because he knew it was fake, and he said, "You either show it, have it scored, or I'm suing you for claiming you have the world record," because he was claiming he had the world record. And he said, "Here's how you get out of it. Sign this contract right here stating you did not shoot the world record. You did not claim the world record. You want nothing to do with the world record. And you'll never claim you shot the world record." And to not get sued, he signed it. So he basically signed that he lied about everything. So, I mean, why would you do that? At that point, anybody would say their back's against the wall. They have to have the rack, X-rayed or whatever. So,
yeah, I know Kevin over at the Deer Hunter podcast did like a series of a podcast about him, and I haven't listened to all of them yet. And
I know a lot of people that really believe in him. Kevin's one of them, and I can say one thing that's in common with everybody that believes in him. You guess what that is?
What's that? They're from Michigan?
They're all from Michigan. They're all from Michigan, and they all really, really want to believe they got the world record.
I didn't think Kevin. I haven't listened to him all, but I didn't think Kevin was on board with him. I could be wrong.
I thought he was. I didn't really.
Oh,
honestly, I didn't watch the shows.
Yeah, I haven't watched them all either. I mostly didn't because I didn't want to get that deep into it and have to spend much time listening to them. But maybe one of these days when I'm driving or something, I'll catch up on them. Sorry, Kevin. Anyway, all right. Enough of that. Let's get into the Q&As. Thanks everybody for submitting your question. If you're on here listening because you submitted a question, a lot of them, there was like 100 questions ended up being our comments, and some of them were repetitive. So I condensed a lot of them, just because we just for time's sake. And, so if your question is worded a little differently than what you put it on there, it's because of that. It's because I reworded it. Okay. This is question number 1, and it came from Tim Hinkie, and it's probably one we should start off with. It's what is the best way to find a mature buck during late season?
Find his tracks in the snow.
What if you don't have snow?
Glass.
There you go.
So what I do is late season comes, it's all about scouting. And my biggest problem with late season is that you have such short days, and for some reason I'm still working. So I'm sure a lot of people have that problem. So getting off of work with enough time to scout and stuff, and basically we get to weekends, you know what I mean? And the days are so short, it's dark at 4:30. So I can always only work till 5, so I get home at noon, 5 p.m. and then I get home at noon, you know me. But in other words, I sneak out early. Yeah. But get out and hunt, but it's hard to scout. But really getting onto them is easy at this time of the year. Now, it's not right now. And the reason for that is now they got a 4-day doe season right after 9-day muzzleloader season, right after 9-day gun season, all back to back, which is really crazy. It's another one of those things where the DNR works for us, but they act like we're their servants. I mean, I never got no questionnaire asking me if I wanted a 4-day gun season for does, but I ended up with it. Mm-hmm. But when that doe season ends, we got, I don't know, a few days, like a week, maybe a little longer than a week. And then we got this really long doe hunt called the holiday hunt. At least in my county, it's not in every county. And that's all antlerless. And that, they kill more bucks than they do does. If you add it up, they kill 11% shed antler bucks and something like 39% button bucks, because the button bucks are just walking around stupid because they've been kicked out of the doe groups and they don't even have smarts. And then there's like a 4 to 6% or 3 to 6%. They don't know the exact numbers, but it's somewhere between 3 to 6% incidental kills of bucks, antlered bucks. Mostly the ones where the antlers are hidden by the ears or something like that. People shoot them on accident. Most of those get just left out there because people are so afraid of getting caught with an illegal buck. And a matter of fact, after doe seasons are over, I find dead bucks laying all over the place when I'm scouting. Every time they have that holiday hunt. So I hate that holiday hunt, really. Me personally, I won't participate in doe hunts or holiday hunts. I'll shoot does during the regular season. So anywho, what I was getting at before I went on my tantrum is that that'll really kill the whole month of December for me. So maybe I'll go on a road trip, someplace else or something. But we do get January then. The trouble is, a good number of the bucks will be shed by that time. But there'll still be a few out there to chase that aren't. And I do well in January. But to get on them, I glass them, I shine them, I find tracks in the snow, and I do a lot of scouting. And where I'm looking mostly is around food sources and dense swamps. And the more snow you get, the more they're going to be in dense cover because they're going to be eating browse. And you got to think about where to browse is good. If there's standing corn, you want to look for standing corn. You want to look for things like that. And I will search down and find them. And what you're going to find is it's pretty much a ghost town everywhere, except for where the deer are. The deer will be congregated in groups, at least up here in the North Country. And this is if there's snow. I mean, I know where Tim hunts, there's snow. Maybe not now, but there will be. Snow and cold will get them moving really well. The cold days will get them moving in daylight really well. But these deer will be the most patternable they are the entire year. They're more patternable in winter, in the end of the season, than they are in early season, than they are in rut, than any other time. Until you get in there and shake them up, they'll just do the same thing over and over again because they only really exist at that time of the year to go from bed to food. They're kind of miserable and just surviving. So if you play it right and you kind of look at this from a distance, you glass, you get onto tracks, you back off, you find this food source, you find where there's a lot of activity, and then you sit back and you watch it once or twice. Those deer will repeat the same pattern over and over again. And then you can move in for the kill. And I think that this is one of the best times to kill big bucks in the aspect that they're so patternable. However, there ain't a leaf on a tree, and they will spot you in the tree really quick. They're if you hunt the same spot twice, they'll bust you for sure. And you'll have, in a lot of cases, when you hit it right and you get on a big number of deer, there'll be 3 or 4 bucks that you're willing to shoot that are really good bucks, and 30 or 40 deer you don't want to shoot. And guess which ones are going to come by first and spot you in the tree or smell where you walked? So it's got its challenges. But locating them, I'm looking for that thick cover that's got lots of browse. Dogwood is a good one. Near crop fields, especially standing corn because it doesn't get buried in snow. But those kind of things. They're going to move to that dense cover, both for wind, to get out of the wind and cold, and to get food. A lot of times they'll bed in pines because pines will be warmer, especially if they're thick pines. But again, near food, they're not going to really eat the pines unless they're starving.
Yep. Well, you answered like half the questions in that spill there. So, no, I'm kidding. No, that was good. Yeah, here in Indiana, I do a lot of you just drive the roads and find, the pockets of deer. Especially if you don't have time to hunt in the evening, like a lot of us, a lot of you don't, that have to work, or you don't get off until, 4:00, and all of a sudden you only got an hour and a half of daylight on the Eastern time zone, at least. If you can just on your way home from work, just start driving roads and looking that way. Do you find that like if you find a group of, like, say right before dark, you see whatever 30 does out in the field? I mean, are do you think the big bucks are making their way to that same food source that time of year?
Yeah, I think you know how I always say that the does and the small bucks are like squirrels and rabbits. They're not even the
Yeah,
same species. Winter they start becoming the same species because it's all about food. So
yeah,
they get on the same patterns.
it's their
Um,
only option.
yeah. So if you find a group of does, you usually found a buck too. If you're patient and you watch, as long as it's a bigger group. Sometimes it takes a night or two to watch, and sometimes you don't
Hmm.
find them. Um,
Yeah, I think that covers that question
you,
pretty
you made
well
you made
there.
a good point about the roads though, and driving the roads, and I kind of said it from the aspect of trying to hunt every day. And you're right. I mean, if you ain't got enough time to hunt, or if you're not onto something, so if you haven't done that scouting that we were
Hmm.
talking about, I mean, just going out and hunting near thick cover isn't going to do you crap for good. So you're
Yeah.
better off just scouting until you get on deer at this time of the year for
Hmm.
your hunt, because you're going to go through vast areas of not finding deer. And like you said, the best way to get on them rapidly is with a vehicle.
Hmm. Cover ground.
Yep.
All right, let's go on to question number 2 here. It says, you set on the food source or closer to bedding. How do you balance hunting food sources versus overlooked or untouched bedding?
Well, for me, it depends on how far away from the food source they're bedding. In a lot of cases, they're really in survival mode at this time of the year up here. It might be a little
Hmm.
different by Josh. You're about probably 10 degrees warmer.
Hmm.
But up here, they will bed as close to the food as they possibly can, where they still got safe bedding. So, like earlier in the year, they might bed a quarter mile from, to just get the perfect bedding spot. They might inch up a little closer this time of the year until they're bumped. So, a lot of times I am actually hunting right at the food source because that's also at the bedding source. So I'm trying. Sometimes it's really hard to get between them, between the food and the bedding, because of how close they bed. But that all changes once you educate them. That's why it's really important to um, watch them for a day or so before you move in for the kill, if you can. Because if you hit it wrong, if you're in the wrong tree or set up a little off and you didn't know what was going to happen, a lot of times it's over. But then
Yeah.
again, I've been in spots where I've had deer come in like on a consistent basis, and I've been able to hunt them over and over and over again. There's been a couple of scenarios. One scenario is I can get to the edge of where they're moving without crossing their trails, stay on the downwind side, and they never knew I was there. And the other scenario is I take a main trail that people use occasionally all year round, and deer are used to human scent on it, and I set up right on the trail. That's done real well for me. I've had the same bucks walk under me day after day when I've hunted like that. But if you get like 50, 60 yards off that trail, all of a sudden they're freaking out when they hit your scent trail.
Right. Yeah. I think this time of year, like your entrance and like if you want to have multiple sits at this location, like your exits are so important too.
Hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of people, you hear people all the time be like, "Yeah, I saw deer out in that field, and they didn't show up when I was there." It's probably because they watched you walk in. If I had to guess, just this time of year, everything's so open, and like you said, they can be bumped closer to bedding closer to the food source. So there's a good chance they uh, watch you walk in, and then on top of that, then you got to worry about getting down and not bumping all the deer.
Yeah.
Which I mean, a lot of people will be like, that didn't bother them. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it bothers the does and maybe those small bucks, but I don't know how many times a mature buck will get bumped off of a field by a human and not think about it before he goes back into that field again during daylight.
Well, well, you make some good points, and now this last week, we just ended our yesterday ended our 9-day muzzleloader season, and I think during that 9 days I missed 2 days, so I hunted 7 days, and I got a couple cameras over by Dave's, and I've been getting pictures of several good bucks, and they've been pretty consistent. And they've been showing up in daylight sometimes. And just a few days ago, a really big buck that I was hunting early season showed back up that I thought was dead because it went by my neighbor with a bad wound, and then he shot it and didn't recover it. So it had 2 arrow holes through it. So I'm really happy that that thing survived because it was the biggest buck I was after over there. So anyways, generally I spread myself out really thin, and I go all over the swamps and the islands and stuff at that time of the year, and I have a lot of action. But I really wanted to shoot. There's 3 bucks that I was really interested in shooting. They were showing up regularly enough that I wanted to. So I had a pretty bulletproof setup where I could come in on a south wind, and we had a lot of south winds. I could get away with, pretty much a straight west or any south wind. So I came in there and hunted it up against the fence line where I could go up the tree from the back side, and the deer really didn't come on my side of the fence. I guess they occasionally do, which I can say that because one day I got there and there's a brand new giant rub right underneath the tree that wasn't there the day before. But I hunted it I don't know, 5 times, in a week, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But one day I had 12 deer go past, and one day I had 7, but I can say that by the end of that 5 or 6 days, I had less deer. And I did have the last day that I hunted there, I had a 6-pointer come out that I had seen a couple times. And it came out of the woods at 100 yards, and I'm nestled in a little hole where you cannot see me. A person wouldn't even see me up there except for the orange.
Yeah.
And that deer came out at 100 yards, peeked its head out and looked directly at me. And I'm like, oh, it can't be looking at me. And then it came out a little ways and went up to this tree about 50 yards away and peeked around the tree to see if I was in there, and was staring directly up at me. That deer obviously had figured out exactly where I was.
Right.
And that's the trouble with that. But I did have a pretty bulletproof setup. And I still think that it wasn't that bad of an idea, even though the small ones figured me out. But I had a lot of fawns going through, doe fawns. And the bucks were coming there because of the doe fawns. The doe fawns were coming out of a doe bedding area and heading to some cut corn. So the bucks were following them. That's what I was getting on camera and stuff. And actually, I got some pretty cool views of smaller bucks I didn't want to shoot, chasing does around grunting and stuff. But if that one of them big bucks came through, I still don't think it would have known I'm there. But by spooking the fawns away, I was defeating the purpose, because once the fawns are gone, then
Right.
then I don't have the bait.
Yeah. All right. Here's the next question. What are some natural late season food sources? So I'm assuming they're talking about anything other than corn and beans or whatever else is planted unnaturally.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Apple
I got
crud,
a couple of
pile of corn.
we did have some questions. It's not on this. It's not on this one, but it's some people are asking about stuff like that. So
Yeah,
mostly competing with that during late season.
Natural food sources are like dogwood. The red osier dogwood is a good one. Young browse, young poplar, hardwood areas that have been clear cut and are growing back. Those are really good natural food sources. They like young trees, young hardwood trees, young poplar, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Around here, you'll find like, and I'll be honest, around here, I haven't had very many late season buck tags to like hunt them to get real good at it. But I find a lot of sheds like in the hills next to like when there's some like chestnut oaks or red oaks that have fallen. A lot of places don't have the oaks like we do. Like, so there's leftover oaks for them to eat that time of year.
Yeah, I've noticed
something
when
else.
I was hunting by you, there was rotten acorns on the hills. Where by me, I don't even have acorns by the end of October. They've eaten them all.
Yeah. And then also, a lot of people will talk about hunting over honey locust.
Oh yeah, they like that.
Yeah. Greenbrier around here. If it's especially if we have like a warmer, warmer season, which that's another thing around here. I'm like, I don't get to hunt these scenarios very often because it could be 50 degrees in December, all of December, and then our season goes out. So, it's not really.
You kind of saw that when you hunted with us last year when we did the Fort McCoy challenge.
Oh yeah,
we got into that below zero temperatures, and look at how good the deer moved.
Oh man, yeah. The challenge wasn't finding deer; it was just like actually physically hunting is the challenge, like just being out there.
Now you think about this when people are asking us what the food sources are. I didn't know what the hell they were eating there. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, there isn't a green field.
They're walking into a field of dried up brown grass and eating like crazy. I mean, you saw that. So a lot of times we really don't know the food like people think we do.
Yeah.
But we go find the deer. Where are they?
Yeah.
And then you hunt them.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Because they're leaving a sign. I mean, the snow is just a great boon because they're not moving very far distances. So when you find those tracks in the snow and a lot of them in an area, you're in them.
Yep, for sure. All right. Let's go on to the next question here. Morning versus evenings during late season. There's quite a few people ask that.
Yeah. Scout in the morning.
Yeah.
Hunt in the evening. I doubt you're going to see much of anything in the mornings. They seem to be bedded before daylight in the mornings at that time. Now, the difference is, though, the later mornings seem better. It seems like when it gets bitter cold, they'll get up around 10, 11 or so in the heat of the day when the sun's up. And they'll go feed again. And they'll move again. And they'll move out to the food source and back again. So I just don't think you need to get there before daylight and sit that first hour. I don't think that's a very productive time of the day. And I do think that morning hunting is detrimental to late season hunting. Like I said, these areas are really delicate to pushing the deer out of there. So if you're walking into an area where the deer's already up and feeding and they're only moving 100 yards to food and back, they might be bedded in that food source for the night and then move to their bedding area at daylight. So you go in there and kick them out of there. Now you're not going to kill them. Now they know they're being hunted. It's a proverbial slap on the ass. Hey, here I come. So I think the evening hunt is a much better hunt for that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. I just, there's so many things that can go wrong in the mornings. And it can be, I mean, especially up like at Fort McCoy when we were up there during January, it was like, I mean, the mornings were just so cold. Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's, there's something about 30 below and where you're just like, I think I'll wait till this evening.
Yeah, right.
I'll still go out mornings if I got so many spots to go. And Fort McCoy had so many deer in so many areas that you could. I'll still go out and hunt in the mornings, but when it's that cold, I'd rather not. I mean, your equipment don't even function. But those evenings can be really good.
Yep, for sure.
Much better than the morning.
Let's keep going here. We're pretty far along in time. We'll keep going here. How does bedding differ from early October to mid and late December? We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier.
A big part of it is that just look at it. You go out there in October and something looks really thick, and you're like, "This is good bedding." And you go out there in December, and you're like, "Man, that wouldn't hold a rabbit."
Yeah.
A lot of times, even scouting, when you go out through something in winter and scout, that's a great time to be out there because you get to see how thick something is. because once all the leaves are down, then you know what thick is. And really, they got to have cover. You have a lot less area a deer can bed in wintertime than you do earlier in the year. They can scatter out over more vast areas. They have to have certain aspects of cover. They really don't want to be in the open sun. They don't want to be in the wind. They don't want to be seen in their beds that are going to be in thicker cover. And there's only so much that has that at that time of the year. Once all the leaves are down and everything's bare and open, and there's a blanket of snow where you can spot things, you know?
Yeah. All right. Next question here. And we were talking about, you were talking about this a little bit in your initial comments there. It's how high do you prefer to set up in late season? There was a couple other guys asking about just our setups and how we get away with, hunting in bare trees, and or do we ever hunt on the ground was another question.
I'm having a hard time understanding that question, because really you shouldn't smoke pot at all when you hunt.
Whatever.
So high in the tree?
Oh. Yeah, how high? Right. How high until you can't feel the cold anymore? No, I'm kidding.
So how high do I hunt in late season? Again, it's really dependent on the exact situation. So you do have to be very careful of eyes in late season, of them seeing you, because there's no cover, so they can see you from a longer distance, and they'll see you climb the tree. So I tend to be a little lower usually. As a matter of fact, I tend to hunt off the ground a lot more in late season.
Yeah, I've noticed that about you, just watching videos from late season.
Yeah, it's because it's just hard to get into a tree, especially if they're moving a very short distance. If that deer is moving 60 yards to his food source, how do you get in between that 60 yards and climb 20 feet up in a tree without him seeing you? You just can't do it. So I might be just off the ground. I might be more inclined to hunt out of like a cedar tree where I can nestle inside of something where they can't see me, where I have cover, or just get on the ground.
Yeah. That's, something I didn't think about, is hunting on the ground during late season. And like, I'm probably going to go to, Illinois here in January and hunt. And yeah, it's something I'll probably need to bring like my ghillie suit with me or something, just because there may be a scenario where you can't have to hunt on the ground. So, and you can, if you can get away with hunting on the ground in the right scenario. And do you have any tips for setting up on the ground at all? Like,
the big thing is your first hunt's the good one. And
okay.
Your first time slipping in there, if they're not expecting you to be there, they've never smelled you there hasn't been any people bothering them, nothing's been around, they're more likely to just walk out stupid and let you shoot them.
Yeah.
But if you walk around the area and come back the next day, you go pick a spot out, and they come through there and they smell you were there, it just takes one of them to walk over and smell where you're at, that the next time they come out, they check that spot to see if you're there. And if they know you're there, they're going to spot you. So it's really a matter of hitting it right the first time. Again,
I can't remember where I heard this at, but I was hearing those guys out in like, they were in North Dakota hunting in the late season, and they built like they'd go in at noon or whatever and build like a snow, because it's all white, and they build like a snow blind almost that they'd sit down inside of. And one of the guys shot a buck out of one of them.
Or like a retarded deer.
That is true. I guess it's the Western states, but
well, you can get away with that. You can get away with a blind too.
Yeah, true.
I think blinds work great in late season if they're like in a spot where there's going to be action, and you just stay out of it until there's time and they get used to it.
Yeah, almost like a preset location.
Correct.
I
got one in my yard. We got that food plot where I burnt down half the swamp in my yard there. I put a blind out there. I got a Tide Wee one. You see those new ones they got with the where you can see through them?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I picked one of those up, and I put that down by the food plot, and put a camera down there, and it's been down there for 3 days. There hasn't been a deer on it. So
yeah.
They were in there earlier, but my neighbor just started whacking them when he saw them coming across the road going in there, and he set up a tent over there. And last couple of days of gun season, he blew the hell out of them. So haven't seen a deer.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Next question here. Do you stop hunting an area after gun season and the Orange Army has hunted it? Do mature bucks leave, or do they eventually come back later?
Depends. I mean, sometimes they come back. It doesn't necessarily kill the area; it just kills it for a while. And what I found is the Orange Army has a little less of an impact on an area than a bow hunter. But what I mean by that is they go through everything. There's not much that isn't touched by the Orange Army. They get into everything. So there's scents everywhere. So the deer just get kind of scattered, and then eventually they got to settle down and pick a spot. So a lot of the spots where we see deer during gun season, it takes a while, but towards the end of December, all of a sudden there's a good one back in there. But generally, if there's, it's areas that hold a lot of deer and have food nearby, just like everything else, I do find a lot of the deer in late season in the heavily hunted marshes that still have big bucks very remote. I see some of them way out there. But in the marshes and swamp, once the snow is really deep, they kind of come out of those places. Then they come back out to the shallows. But if the snow's not deep, like right now, I don't have any snow, but overnight I'm supposed to get a ton of it, which means the doe hunters are going to slaughter the does. But right now, I would say those deer are probably really deep in those marshes and swamps. And you can find them out near the areas that are kind of like unstable, where people don't go walk around because they'll fall through their armpits. But as soon as the snow comes, they're going to move back out to the edges of the marshes and swamps, and will be very vulnerable again to hunters.
Okay. This is a really good question. This next one here, you guys ask, what would you do during the late season if you already filled your buck tags to help you for next year's success?
Scout.
Yeah.
So
in
the snow, it's kind of hard. Go ahead.
He was also, I don't remember if it was this question or not, but there was another comment about, or question about if it's okay to like be scouting around where people are going to be hunting and whatnot.
Well, people go all over the woods. I mean, if I know somebody's hunting in an area, I won't go in there, but generally there's really nobody out there anymore.
Yeah.
Generally, when I hunt late season, I don't see people. The only people I'm seeing is the stupid doe hunters and stuff.
Yeah.
But late season, I don't see other bow hunters. I really don't. Period. I mean, every now and then you'll see a car in a parking lot. Your odds of walking past that guy are pretty slim. So I would get out scouting. I think the more you're, I guess if you shot one like during rut or something, you're walking around prime rut, you could really tick some people off. But
yeah,
I don't know. The best time to scout is when the deer are there. So if you want to know what deer are doing during rut, or you want to know what they're doing during early season, that's the best time to look at the bedding areas. Literally, it's just doesn't work out well for
when you're hunting.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I think, I mean, etiquette wise, I think if you're in the parking lot first and there's nobody else there, like I probably wouldn't go scouting around if there was a truck or two in the parking lot, deer hunting. But like if you're the only one there, you aren't really hurting anything. It is what it is. It's your public land to whatever you want to go in there and have a picnic if you want,
I personally wouldn't scout someplace if I knew somebody was actively hunting that area.
Right.
But, otherwise, if I don't know somebody's in there, I'm gonna scout wherever.
Yep. All right. This will probably be a short one. Would you rather hunt over a cut corn field or a cut bean field?
At this time of year, corn.
Yep.
Sure.
You ever see deer going to beans though this time of year?
Oh yeah.
Cut beans. I mean,
cut beans, not so much. standing beans usually.
Oh yeah.
But cut corn, I mean, there's two kinds of cut corn. There's the kind with older equipment and stuff that drops a little, and there's the kind with brand new equipment that doesn't drop anything. That when they get done, there ain't a kernel of corn in the damn field, and then it's a useless field for the deer. They don't want to walk through open areas that have no food.
Yeah.
So if there's corn in the field that's cut, that's laying on the ground, it's usually a good destination for animals. They might be a little shy about walking into it in daylight, but maybe you can figure out where they're coming from and get between them. Sometimes there's, I've had areas where the corn's away from a road and the bedding is right up against the corn, and they will walk out in daylight. And any mature animals, even on public. But sometimes you got to get in between them too.
Yeah. All right. Got a few more questions and we'll answer some stuff from the comments here. This guy says, my target buck, this is kind of almost the same scenario you're in right now, by the way. My target buck just showed up on cam for the first time since rifle, and it looks like he took a bullet to the shoulder. He's moving really slow. The guy doesn't think he's going to survive the winter in northern Wisconsin between the cold and the wolves. He says, I have some time next weeks, and I'm wondering how you'd approach hunting a wounded, mature, big woods buck in late season.
Well, I think a wounded, mature, late season buck is going to really lock down on a small area. He's not going to do a lot of traveling. So where you're seeing him or where you got him on camera, he's living right there someplace. I think I would probably try to observe him and then move in and kill him. I think that's a very, very killable deer.
1 second. We got a scammer in the comment section. All right, took care of it. Yeah, that's interesting, though. I never thought about that, like how a wounded deer would act differently than a healthy deer.
And now that deer that I'm hunting that's wounded, I got one picture of it, and I got 2 cameras out there in kind of key spots, and I was actually surprised because it hasn't been seen since it was. It's actually been shot twice. And what's surprising me is the guy who shot it thought it was gut shot when it went by him, by where it was bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
He shot it, and he hit it back a little bit and thought he gut shot it. And my friend with the dog went out there. He couldn't find it. And he said that he was sure it was dead based on the blood color. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe it when that thing showed up on camera now. And it didn't stay right in the area because I'm not getting more pictures of it unless it's there and I'm not seeing it because I'm being real delicate about the area. So I think maybe this weekend, while I'm waiting for all this doe stuff to end, I might shift the camera out there and see if I can pick them up again. Because I'm trying not to go in there and disturb the area too much. But I have been doing really key hunts where I'm in an observation spot where I can see a long ways to that area, and I haven't put eyes on them. Usually the wounded ones will move more in daylight. They're stressing, so they're gonna have to move more to food earlier in the evening. They're not going to get out of that pattern as easy as another buck. They're not going to go wandering around at night and end up someplace else. They're going to get locked in a pattern. They're really easy to kill.
Yeah. Speaking of wounded deer, did you see that picture of that deer that had that stick lodged through its back end walking around? Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else in the comments has seen that, but
that's a dead deer because if you look at where that stick's going in, it's going through its guts. So that deer was dead within 12 hours of that picture being taken. And I would say probably sooner. So whatever happened to that deer had happened just before that picture was taken.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Did you put a picture of that up?
I could probably find it. I'd have to find it and
here, I'll find it while you're talking,
but I can't imagine. I mean, what that deer did to get that big. I mean, it was not a small stick going through him. I mean, it was I don't know. It was what, about that big around, probably. I mean,
Yeah, one would think that that would have to be he fell off a cliff or something, right?
Phil.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, right there.
See how
Oh
it's going through
gosh.
guts on the other side. You can kind of see it.
Yeah. Oh
behind
yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But that, I mean,
That's
that's
good. Yeah.
obviously fatal. That deer, somebody said he's going to suffer and suffer and suffer. I don't think so. I think that deer's dead within 12 hours.
He
And I think probably even an exaggeration because an arrow with that shot would be dead in 12 hours. I think
Yeah.
that with that stick and going through the guts and stuff and how it's constricting him, he'd probably dead quicker than that. Probably 7
Probably
hours.
so.
What they die of is they don't die of blood loss. They die from septic poisoning from going through the guts.
Right. Rough.
Yeah,
That's rough. All right.
Reminds me of my childhood.
Something that happened to you as a little kid.
Getting spikes through my leg and an axe in my.
All right. 2 more questions here. All right. I'd also be, he said, this guy must ask 2 questions. He said, I'd be curious about how you guys think bucks use the wind going from bed to food. Do they move earlier with the wind in their face and things like that?
I did a whole article on that once. It was really good. But to brief it, I think deer go to bed and they make sure they smell the bed and make sure the bed is a secure area before they go in. So a lot of times they'll semicircle it. Sometimes they just come around and come in from downwind. But when they leave the bed and go to food, I don't think there's any regard for wind. And I've gotten in some arguments about that with other hunters and some hunters that really I have some respect for. And I remember one guy that's killed a lot of big bucks who told me that I'm dead wrong. Bucks always go into the wind, nose into wind. And he said every buck he's ever killed coming out of bedding has done that. And I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, how many times have you ever hunted them with the wind to your face? He said, never, because they don't come out like that.
Yeah.
Well, I have killed them that way. I've killed them every which way you can imagine. I've killed them coming out with the wind to the face. I've killed them coming out wind to tail. I've killed them on crosswinds because I hunt all those. Now, I'd say if there's any kind of trend to it, I believe they come out a little earlier when the wind's in their favor. Maybe go a little further so that you get a little advantage of them having the wind in their favor. But I don't think the wind is a dictator of which direction they're going to go. If deer always moved into the wind to nose, they'd all end up in the ocean drowning after a few days of the same wind. They just go to their food source. They're not that smart. I think wolves and coyotes are more smart with stuff like that. But they are smart enough to check out danger zones. So I have seen them do things like go to the downwind side of a field before they walk out into it, like circle it. You follow their tracks, you see that. I've watched them go to the lowest point of a field before they go into it. And now that's common knowledge, but the old school mentality has always been that they do that because they're out of sight. They're down that low spot. That's not really true. The reason they do that, and if you disbelieve me, walk around in the evening when you see them do that and drop milkweed anywhere in that field. It'll float to the lowest point because thermals always drop to the lowest point. So they'll go to that point where all the anything that's going on in that field, the scent will drop down to that spot, which is how they bed a lot of times in hill country. You'll see them in those ravines and stuff in a spot where you can't get near that spot because no matter where you drop milkweed from, it goes to the spot where they bed. Well, they do the same thing when they come to a field edge. But their travelings, I don't see it so much. And even when they come out of bed, I mean, they go from point A to point B. But when they get to point B, if they're leery of it, they'll circle around to the downwind side or, you know what I'm saying? But their travel routes, I don't see it much at all. The main time I see them use wind to travel is in rut when they're looking for does and they're trying to smell does. Then they'll take like leeward ridges where they can smell below and above, and they'll walk, right where the wind meets the thermal. They will walk downwind of doe bedding, things like that. But I really don't see them travel much. They bed a lot based on wind and how wind will travel to their beds and stuff. But that travel out of bedding, I don't see that much. What's been your experience?
Yeah, I've never been able to pattern something like that where they, I'm kind of like you.
Every one of those shot with wind and nose.
Yep, exactly. Yep, all these have been shot on a northeast wind, and
so because that's all
only out on a northeast wind. No, I'm with you. I have never.
Somebody that I had that conversation with very mad at me.
Well, and not to, I mean, to be frank, I don't know. I haven't paid that much attention to it to be honest with you. Like I couldn't tell you exactly how all these bucks behind me.
Yeah, because you set up on how they come out, not based on the wind.
Yeah,
you just set up on the wind being safe for you.
Yeah, I've never found it to be an effective or patternable enough to pay attention to it, I guess. So
I think a lot of times in hill country, a just off wind is important, and it's not for that reason, but the main reason is because you hunt above their bedding in a lot of cases, because below them you get that thermal problem and you get their eyesight problem, but you can get above them and get close a lot, and you hunt off of those points and stuff, and they're bedding on that point when the wind's blowing on that point. So you're trying to find some wind when they're bedding on that point, but the wind ain't going to them. So you get that just off wind, and you get to the side of the point where it blows over, it blows over the draw. You know what I'm saying? And they still come out kind of the wind nose, but you're off to the side and you can shoot to where they come out to.
Yep. All right, let's answer this one more question here, and then we'll do part 2 on Sunday. This isn't a hunting question, but I thought it was an interesting one. It says, how do we make a living off YouTube and get to hunt all the time? I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand how YouTube works. And I thought it'd be interesting just to tell people how it works.
Yeah, it's there's very few that are making a living off of it. You can do it, but it would take putting content up constantly. You got to do it at least once a week. I would say probably more than that. And it has to be good content and people want to watch it. And you have to get, 100,000 subscribers. You got to have people watching. And that is not an easy task. It takes a long time to build up a show like that.
Long time. And how you actually get paid by YouTube is like if you guys are watching a YouTube channel and you see an ad pop up, and you're like those annoying ads, that's the creator that of the video gets ad revenue from those ads. So that's how YouTube works. So the more you guys watch this, or
when you guys watch the ad, the whole ads, we get paid one price. And if you click skip the ad, we get paid a different price. So watch all the ads on my shows, and on Josh's, you can skip them.
Yeah. I'm fortunate because I can create a lot of content on this channel. So like the more videos you have, the more views you get, the more ads you're going to see through the videos. So then you make more money.
Right.
So like it's hard.
You want to make sure is that you got good content, because if you're putting up just crap to put it up every week, well, then you're going to lose people, And the other thing is you really can't take things to heart if people don't like you. There's a lot of fake people out there, and I don't mean that they mean to be fake or anything like that. I don't think people mean to be that way, but they try to correct everything people tell them to, and to become someone that they're not. I'm who I am, and I have to understand that that's who I am. And if you don't like me as a person, I shouldn't be trying to correct myself to that. You can just go away, and somebody else will fill your void. And I have to be okay with people leaving my channel because they don't like who I am, like what I wear, or like what I say, or like my black gun, or whatever. I mean, that's okay. And you have to kind of be your own person. One of the biggest things for me is you have to be original. You can't copy people. there's one Dan Infalt. There's one Lee and Tiffany. There's you know, one of each of those, and the people that copy them never get to the degree of the people who are original. You know, if you come up with something new, original, you don't worry about how other people do shows and what they're getting and how they're doing it and what they're getting. You know, there's only one hunting public. If you go out and you want to be the hunting public, that's already there.
Yeah.
There's a million people now trying to mimic them. How many of them you see popping up, going someplace? Because they're already there. That's already a thing. You know, so the originality, I think, is important. Coming up with an original idea. It doesn't even have to be hunting. I mean, you could do a show on what mushrooms are edible and not, and how to forage off the land and stuff like that. And, and if it was original and nobody else is doing that, you do real well. Yep. But that's the thing is when there's a million shows just like yours, you got a million other people competing against you.
Yeah.
So being original is huge.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and just we can take a few questions from the chat here too, and I left the call in link in the comments at the bottom of the page there. So if you guys want to call in, just shoot over to that link, follow the directions, and it'll bring you to the studio here, and I'll have to let you in. Just be patient with me if we're talking. After we're done with the question, I'll get you on the screen. So, all right. Tony asked if we ever use a spotting scope or just binoculars for glassing.
I've used a spotting scope. I really don't too often because most of the stuff that I'm hunting around here is I don't have that kind of distance to look. So I usually use binoculars, but I do use a big pair. I use 10 by 50s. Yep.
I use a spotter quite a bit. I have one of those, they call them a phone scope for them, where you can actually put your phone on the thing and video record what you're looking at.
What kind of binoculars that we got? We picked up those new binoculars. Those Mavens. Yeah, I really like those. I you know, my old pair fell apart, and Josh had got the Mavens, and he suggested I get a pair, and I got a pair, and the 10 by 50s are really compact, and I've been able to. They're small enough that I've been able to wear them hunting.
Yeah.
So like when I was hunting by Dave's, where I could see the whole farm, that was nice. But I haven't used a spotting scope much. I do use my camera sometimes, where I'll mount it on a window mount, and then I can zoom in on deer and see what they are. But the binoculars work a little better than the camera.
Binoculars just a little more user friendly when it comes to riding around in a pickup, or
you can fly them up so fast too.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is too with the deer around me, I don't know how they are by you, Josh, but if I stop and lock on them and watch them for 5 minutes, they're gone, and then they might not even come back. So I kind of want to take a quick glance and get out of there for two reasons. Number one, I might spook the deer. Number two, somebody sees Dan's truck stopped on the side of the highway and binoculars sticking out the window. There'll be 10 trucks there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to cause attention to the spot either.
Yeah. Around here, it seems like if you even slow down to stop and look at them, you're going to bump them off the field. But which I think is pretty common everywhere, especially in the higher density areas of Midwest. Now, if you go out west, I think, and you can look, I think you can pull on the side of the road and watch deer for a while. But
you talk about the deer being retarded.
Yeah, right. All right, we got a call in here.
You do see that with those deer that are. There's certain areas where, for whatever reason, they just don't. None of the deer seem afraid of people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's pressure related.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. How's it going, Patrick?
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, I got a real quick question. So,
all right.
Nothing. Just frustrated. Our weather here has been terrible. So raining.
Yeah.
And hot too, warm. Dan, Josh, where do y'all go after the peak breeding's winding down here? We're probably in the last few days of peak breeding. I like hunting that a lot afterwards because the bucks seem to get on their feet. The big deer seem to really get on their feet and move around. Where do you find those deer once everything's kind of winding down? It seems like our deer just disappear, down here in the South. after peak breeding, they're done. And then after Christmas, we'll have usually a pretty good second rut that you can get some action at, but it's, nothing like the first rut. Where do you go to find those deer usually?
So for me, it's been I'm still hunting rut type mentality, and I'm seeing less deer, but I'm getting in tight to doe bedding areas. I just figure they're a little more nocturnal at that in between time, but they're still checking. And what I think is they're a little stressed out from the breeding of all the does and stuff like that, and the chasing and all that stuff, and they move just a little less, but they're still interested. And at that time frame, there's still does that come into heat here and there, and I'm still concentrating on that type of factor. But you're just going to have a little less action. It's not peak rut. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, and I think are you asking what kind of time frame are you asking? Are you thinking it's like lockdown or what? Like
I'd say we're on well, it's kind of weird. Like usually our lockdown is probably like the 30th is usually my best day hunting in the woods for big deer, and then after that they go into lockdown. Lockdown usually generally lasts till like the 6th or 7th, and then they go back. Then you start seeing a bunch of like the bigger deer really get on their feet, like real anxious, looking for those last few does. Then after that,
I get what you're saying.
It just shuts down. So like now after their lockdown, I still do what Dan said. I still hunt those rut areas, kind of, the downwind side of bedding and stuff like that. But then when it's over, like our deer, the necks, those necks get skinny again, and it's just a depressing time of year. That's when I was wondering too.
I think I would just revert back to, my scouting from the springtime where they're, with those bedding areas I know that they like and go from there. If you're talking about like after rut is over, but
because we don't have agriculture either, so that's a big thing. If we had ag fields, I'm in a river bottom and it's mostly cut over, so everything just about looks alike. It's different stages. Some is 10 years, some's 5 years.
But if you got the feeling that like these big bucks are going to be, trying to sniff out those last remaining does, and then that's where I would think like I'd take Dan's advice for sure on that.
Just bedding. Or kind of concentrate those bedding areas and stuff like that.
Maybe
same
more
one.
Bedding, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks.
Thanks, man.
All right,
good luck. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
All right. William had a question here that happens a lot whenever we're doing what we do here. He says he was scouting and he essentially bumped a mature buck. He probably smelled him. He said he didn't see me, but he took off crashing, and he also walked the area pretty heavy and then left it alone for 2 weeks now. He's like, do you think I have a chance still on that buck?
You always got a chance. Maybe you should hunt someplace else though, because you crashed him out of there. But
he said, well, I think I'll be honest with you, William, I'll say this, Jen, and then you can go ahead. But like, I think maybe waiting 2 weeks was probably not a good idea. I'd probably have sat there right away. And then maybe you could have waited 2 weeks, but
especially if you walked around in there.
Yeah.
Because then you're sent all over the place, and then he comes back and he smells that, and he might even bed there the day he smells you. It's going to be in the back of his mind. Kind of like I've walked through an area and watched a big buck walk across my scent trail. Watch him walk through there like 3 days in a row. Then the 4th day he walks through and walks across my scent trail, and you never see him again.
Yeah.
Doesn't show much reaction, but he knows what he smelled. There is a chance that deer is one of those deer that has an attitude, and he just comes right back in there and doesn't care that you're there. I've seen that many times. But there's also a chance that he comes back and he smells that you're there and he don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably likely. But if it were me and I was going out there to hunt, my first hunt would be right where you saw that buck, and I'd give it a shot.
Yep.
But I would not dwell on that. I'd give it one try.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not there, he's probably not there because he smelled you and all that grief.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, even if it didn't bother him, a lot of these bedding areas have like unless you're into winter mode where they're really stuck on a food source, they have about a week or two peak time from when that buck's there and they move to another bedding area. So, I mean, really, like Josh said, hunting it right away again before they have a chance to move on is probably the best.
Yep. All right. Let's do a couple more, then we'll get off here, everybody. Says what he wished to fish. He says, what if you have too much bedding available? He said he has lots of clear cuts or mountain laurel. Too much bedding.
It's like having too much women, too much gold.
Yeah, there's not very many places where there's too much bedding. I think I mean I kind of understand what he's getting at.
Yeah,
though.
well, so I hunt these vast swamps, and people will tell me, "Well, where do you hunt? There's bedding everywhere. There's deer everywhere, and there is, but those big bucks aren't everywhere. There's going to be places in that spot that they prefer." Now, case in point, I'll just make it kind of simple. Is I remember the first time I hunted Iowa, and I went down to southwest Iowa in the corner, and it was really open. There's just tree lines, and I was like, "Where the hell's a deer?" And every time you'd find a little pocket of brush, 10 big bucks would run out of it, and you'd be like, "What the heck?" Because that wouldn't hold a rabbit back home. You know why? Because I got good bedding here. So big bucks will always gravitate to the very best bedding spots. Sometimes when there's a lot of bedding, like you're talking, you can't differentiate between great bedding and good bedding, but those bucks can. And what you got to figure out is where those big bucks are bedding, because like we've got a swamp up the road from me. It's 3 miles across. Every single time I run into a big buck in that area, they're in the same little area. There's like 2 big buck bedding areas in there that are really good. But from the outside looking in, there's bedding everywhere. That's not to say there's not little pockets here and there where they can hold a big buck. But what it is saying is mature bucks will choose the best spots, whether it's for wind, whether it's because of people, whether it's because it's overlooked, whatever the reason is, they're going to be in key spots there. And the rest of that bedding is going to be filled with young bucks and insufficient bucks and does, in my opinion.
Yep.
What do you think, Josh?
I would completely agree with you. I don't have much else to add.
Well, even if you get into the hills by I mean, you can get to a spot where there's one property and it really has a system set up and there's 10 points on it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to learn that this one little knob over here,
exactly,
that's where he's always at, as long as I leave it alone.
And you can have those same feelings in hill country. You can get overwhelmed in hill country because there's just so, typically it's big acreage, and then it's at the same time it's like there's just so many places they could be at in there.
When you look at it from a map, not being there before, I'll end up looking at all those knobs. But once you find the right one, that's kind of like how we talk about how you go to the property back again. So I always pick spots that are new because I like seeing new properties. Mm-hmm. By the time I learn them, it's time to go home. But if you learn that spot, if I came back the next year to the same property, went to the same spots, I'd get right on deer because of that.
Yep. All right. I'm scrolling through here. Racer Dave asked if Mario has been filming any hunts.
I believe we got a hunt coming up from him. I'm still waiting. He wants to edit his own, so we'll see.
There you go. Sorry, everybody. I do not have a discount code to Maven. I know I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just really like them and like they're the guys that to run the place. Here's a good one to end on. Dan, if you could go back and give your 30-year-old self one piece of hunting advice, what would it be?
It'd probably be something to the effect of that. deer hunting doesn't mean everything. That I don't have to kill the biggest bucks in the world. It doesn't really matter. That maybe my family matters more.
Yeah.
I think I was addicted to hunting 30 years ago.
Yeah. Anything more specific to hunting other than life?
You said anything. Right?
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay. So, geez, I don't know. I mean, at 30, I probably thought I knew everything. I don't know that I advanced a huge amount since then. I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
I was killing a lot of big bucks at 30. Maybe if you went back to like 20.
Right.
So what would I tell my
Right.
20-year-old self?
There you go.
I would probably I don't know. I haven't changed a whole lot really on how I
Yeah.
do things. I think that the biggest lessons I learned are, like I said, I mean, with family, morals, ethics. I think I'm a better person now,
Yeah.
at least in my
Yeah.
eyes.
I think something that like most young people do, they just get in too big of a hurry or get impatient, or they want the, instant gratification of deer hunting. And it's sometimes that's, not the case with deer hunting. It's a long, drawn out, slow process. And anyway, I think I'd probably killed a few more deer if I'd had a little bit more patience, or when I was younger. Not that I'm 30 at the moment, so 31, I guess. But anyway, all right, we've been on here for an hour and a half, so it was a good show. A lot of people on. There's over 400 people on tonight, so that's awesome. Everybody, thanks for the questions. Sunday we'll come back on and answer the remainder of the ones on the website or on the Facebook page. If you want to go over there and ask something, go ahead. There's the forum, or the post is still up there on the Hunting Beast Forum Facebook page. And everybody, make sure you hit the like button on this video. Leave a comment if you like what we're doing, and subscribe too. So everybody, good luck if you're going to go hunting this weekend, and we'll see you in a few days.
See ya.